أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the most merciful, all praise is due to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wherever you are, whatever time it may be for you and your loved ones. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Thank you again for joining us. It is that time of the week. Let's talk about it on Thursday. I am your host, Yasser Fazaga, and always a pleasure and a joy to be with you. Well, it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Everywhere you go, if you have been anywhere, if you've been outside, then you are seeing lots of decorations that remind us that, it is that time of the year. And to many of us, who grew up in Muslim households, were born into Muslim households, to a good number of us, Christmas is just, that time of the year. You can refer to it as that time of shirk, that time of bid'ah, that time of whatever, and we can be very dismissive of it. And today we're not necessarily going to discuss the theology of and behind Christmas, but what we're looking for is, what does the time of Christmas feel like for our brothers and sisters who were members of the Christian faith, and now they're no longer adhering to that because they, alhamdulillah, they have reverted and they are Muslims now. We want to see what that experience is like. I remember, I would, for us, Christmas time this is the time that you go to the Islamic conference. That is, most of our conferences were held either Labor Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. So it was really not an issue, or, we just used it as a time to reunite with our loved ones. So we want to get a feel, an understanding. What does it feel like around Christmas for our brothers and sisters who are reverts? And joining me this evening, a beloved brother, Malik Shah, who is an activist here in the Memphis area, a teacher at a PVS, and a person that you can always be intellectually stimulated and tickled around his presence. Brother Malik, salam alaikum.
Thank you for having me. Alhamdulillah. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, it is good to have you, man.
Alhamdulillah.
And thank you for joining us. And please, I'm just trying to understand, okay? And hopefully, I don't cross any boundaries as I do so. Okay. So just to I guess bring you in, you reverted to Islam. So you grew up in a non-Muslim family. And in your family, and I hope I don't get too personal here, but you have had, Christmas traditions. So if you can just help us understand, what is that like? What is the typical Christmas tradition in a Christian family?
So, Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, Rasulullah. For me, and I think for most African Americans, Christmas is really, it's kind of like Thanksgiving. It's not really like a holiday, like you're all into the religious aspect of it. It's a day off of work. It's a day off where you can see all of your family because nobody's working. So yeah, Christmas, I grew up with a tree. I grew up, we had gifts under the tree. I used to call my cousins to see like, what did you get for Christmas, Christmas morning. Then you go to that house, you go to that house in the evening. I remember going to my aunt's house, and we'd have like Christmas dinner. And again, it was more of like, you can see everybody because everybody's off work. So for myself, Christmas it was a lot of fond memories, just of family. Good times with your family members, seeing, aunties and uncles that you didn't see often because everybody was caught in the hustle and bustle of work. So for me, that's what Christmas, was about. Yeah, the gift giving, the tree, all that. it was part of it, but a lot of it, and I think for a lot of converts, is essentially about good good feelings. It gives you, it's a good feeling. The lights, lights are pretty, they're beauty, lights are pretty. It's always better to see light than to see darkness. So it gives you a good, and there's a lot of nostalgia there.
Okay, so I am thinking, as I am trying to make Eid time for fun for my kids. So I
Yeah.
have them go to bed early. They sleep that day. Everybody is excited about wearing some new clothes for the Eid prayers, and my kids are just absolutely looking forward to the donuts at the masjid on the day of Eid. For whatever reason, they always taste better at the masjid. So just going back, is the excitement the day of Christmas, the day before? Is it when you buy the tree? Is it when you're decorating the tree? What are we talking?
Um, so for some people it was, I mean, I grew up with a fake tree. So we put the tree together. Um, that was cool. I think that's the kind of the hallmark commercial kind of thing. People are decorating the tree, so that was, I mean, that was part of it. Christmas is kind of it's a seasonal thing. It's a buildup. So, you feel Christmas. You go to the mall, you feel it. When you go to, I mean, like you're driving down the street. So it's a feeling, it's a buildup when people are putting lights. Sometimes people put lights on our house. And then, I mean, back then, I mean, it seemed like every house in the neighborhood had lights. Now you don't really see it as much. I mean, one of my neighbors, we were talking today about, Christmas. Even he was saying, I'm not really going to put up that many lights today. No, I just don't feel like it. They had a death in their family, so he said, I just don't really feel like doing it. So Christmas Eve, I mean, it's big. You go to bed. I mean, the idea, even writing your Christmas list. We used to look in the catalog, and you kind of write down, I want this toy, I want this, that or the other. That was special as a kid. Then you give your parents the list. I never believed in Santa Claus, which I think a lot of African American kids, we just didn't believe. I mean, we kind of taught. To be honest with you, you're taught. There's no overweight Caucasian guy coming down the chimney. So our parents were kind of realistic with that. Like, nah, we ain't doing that. We're not telling you that part of the story. But yeah, it was special. I mean, waking up and seeing gifts, it was special. I mean, my wife does that now for my kids on Eid. And I never, it's just a carryover for her, for Christmas or anything. But I mean, my kids love it. They wake up, they see these gifts. They know they come from their mom, so there's none of that. I think it's just the idea of waking up and being like surprised,
Nice. Nice. So, Sister Megan White, she wrote a book a few years back, When Holiday Nostalgia Creates Sadness, a guide to navigating the holiday season for new Muslims. And she spoke about sometimes, people like yourself, you speak about that part of your life with I think she referred to it as positive memories. And in part she says the following, and I want you to see if you do, if you can react to this, please. Said that you might feel like no one else understands you. She's talking about during this time as a revert, and she is a revert herself. You might feel like no one else understands you, and so you have kept your sadness to yourself, trying to figure things out on your own. Perhaps someone has even judged you for having positive emotions connected to your previous non-Muslim holidays by shaming you, leaving you to feel not just isolated in the Muslim community, but isolated from God Himself. Do you get this notion of feeling guilty for having these positive memories to that part? and I think I just lost brother Malik. At any case, so I can, just inshallah, I know that he'll be joining us shortly. So what happens is, just to give you an idea of why we came up with this topic. Well, as you know, it is next week. It'll be Christmas Eve. It'll be the 24th. And what happens is that during this time, you get a lot of questions about my family is having a get together. My family is having a reunion. And it's been tradition in my family that we will join in, we will go there, there will be the gift exchange. And now the questions go into halal and haram. Can I go there? Can I receive the gifts? Can I, give gifts? What happens if people, want to do a little prayer beforehand or afterwards? And again, please remember that we're not dismissing the importance of these questions. However, what we are trying to focus on this evening is not just not necessarily the theology of Christmas, but we're also interested in, well, what is that? What is that like? And this actually comes as a result, working as an imam. You get this, I see you. Good to have you back, Brother Malik. So you get people who say, look, I am I am a revert. I don't have family to celebrate Eid with, and I've been told that I cannot celebrate Christmas with my family. So it's lonely during Christmas, and it's also lonely during the Eid. So, Brother Malik, I'm not sure if you've heard the quote that I read by Sister Megan White.
Yeah. I think I get the gist of it. Is what she's saying is essentially like you're alone. You're told you can't celebrate Christmas, and then in this new religious community, you can't. You can't. There's no familiarity with something that brought you joy.
Right, and then she speaks about this idea of people feeling guilty, or made to feel guilty because they have a positive emotions connected to your previous non-Muslim holidays. Is this how you feel? Like positive connection to these holidays?
Yeah, no doubt. I love the season of Christmas. I don't love the holiday. I don't love the whole, because even in the Bible, when I was a Christian, later between my conversion, I learned that, I think it's Jeremiah 10:2-5 that talks about you shouldn't have a tree up in your house and decorate it, things like that. That it's in scripture that you shouldn't do that. But that doesn't take away from the good feelings you're talking about. And so that's why one of the things that converts often try to do, at least, we used to do this a few years ago. We would go bowling on Christmas. It's important to do something communal because everybody's sitting in their house not doing anything. When we would talk to the bowling alley, the manager would tell me the only people who come here essentially are Jews and Muslims on Christmas. Because it doesn't make sense to sit at home. If you're part of a religious community, then we're all off work. Then you do something. Obviously not doing anything together this year, but inshallah, when the COVID is over, it's good to do something communally together on Christmas.
Okay. So before we get there, can I ask you about your first Christmas? You're a Muslim now. How did you handle your first Christmas?
I remember my I don't know if this was my first one, maybe second one. Well, one of the earlier ones. My wife's family came down to visit. And I remember going downtown. I just went walking around downtown because it was cold. We had family who visited, so it wasn't that bad. But you feel like it's kind of like, man, the equivalent is like Friday and Saturday nights for converts sometimes. You know what I mean? Like you feel like I should be doing something fun. I should be doing something on this day fun. It took me years. Like I grew up going to church. Sundays at 10 a.m., I used to have this feeling of like I should be somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So Christmas is even more, it's like exponentially worse. You know, I should be doing something on this day. Even, you know, I mean, I still would visit my, in later years, I would visit my family members after, I would go in the evenings because there would be like a dinner or something, you know, everybody's over there. And that's the push-pull for converts. You know, how much do you engage with your family as they're celebrating Christmas? You know, I know many converts who say, well, I just don't go in the mornings when they're doing all that gift-giving stuff. You know, I go in the evenings for the dinner so I can see, you know, I can see people, see family, try to keep family ties with people. Because it's one of the few days that you will be able to see your family. Because America is about work, you know. So no, the first one, I just, you know, my in-laws were there, and it was chill.
I remember back in California, where I was in California, we had a Eid there, and you have a lot of these students, and Eid is not an off time for people. You know, people are still working or they're still at school. And I remember I just became aware of a lot of single people, a lot of these students, you know, coming from either out of state and we decided that, you know what, we wanted to have something going on the day of Eid. We, alhamdulillah, we were blessed that we had a park next to the masjid. So what we did is that, you know, we gave people the opportunity to go home, change, and take their Eid nap. I'm not sure if you all do that, but I know that a lot of people have their Eid nap, especially the Ramadan Eid nap. You know, they go and take a nap there. And then what we did is that we had a barbecue at the park. And the theme was people should not be alone on the day of Eid. And I tell you, man, it wasn't just the single people that came. We just made it a communal thing, like you said. It was open to everybody, and people came, man. Kids came. We had like an animal show for the kids. We had a clown, the pizza, the donuts, the barbecue. And to many people, that was Eid. Especially for reverts and especially for single people. And like you said, you know, the idea of these things are to be celebrated communally, not individually. And I think sometimes we do forget that, you know, converts have or reverts have no place to go to. And on the day of Eid, and they've been told that they cannot really go to their families on the day of Christmas. So it's like loneliness and sadness, either way you go about it.
No doubt. I would say Eid is probably worse.
How so?
If you're a convert, like your family isn't Muslim. So they don't understand the significance of the day. They don't understand you've been fasting for, you know, 28, 29. I mean, you know, I mean, they don't understand that. So you can't, so going to your relative's house on Eid is like, oh, well, you know, it's just a regular Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm going to work. Like there's no significance to the day for them. And then you go, let's say you go to the Salat. Once you salam out, once, you know, everybody gets up, hugs each other after the khutbah, you're like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you're going where? Who you gonna hang out with? You know what I mean? Everybody else is with their family, and you see these people with their family. You know, and you know, like, I'm going where? You know, I know many converts say, man, I'm just going to work. You know, I'm not. You know, it does that. It because it's not firmly rooted. It's not tradition for them yet. You know, if you're single, that is the case. I mean, we've done picnics, we've done things that, you know, our homes, because I'm a convert, my wife's a convert, so we understand how that feels. And a lot of times it's just about doing something, inviting people to your house. You know, I mean, if you want to have something at a park or something like you did, you know what I mean? And then you realize that there's not just, you know, it's not just converts who are struggling with that. It's Muslims in general who are struggling with being lonely, you know, who don't have family. We have people who move to the community all the time who don't really know people yet, you know, and we have to look out for those people, not make the assumption that, well, everybody's going to be fine. They'll be okay. And sometimes the big gatherings aren't attractive. So sometimes it's just those smaller, more controlled environments that mean a lot to people.
And I'm really hoping that our viewers are listening to this. And please feel free to use the chat on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube to ask questions to either of myself or Brother Malik here. And it's interesting that you are saying that Eid time is actually worse for people. Let me take you through this, okay? Just going back to Sister Megan. Sister Megan here points out to 5 mistakes that converts make during the time of the holiday. And just for the benefit of everybody, I'm just going to share it here. So she points out to these mistakes, and just take me through them if you can, please. Okay. Number 1, ignore their family entirely around the holiday season, pretending it is not happening. Like the mistake in that.
I mean, it's still your family.
Yeah.
I mean, those people are your family members. At the end of the day, I mean, I'll tell you, my mom, I didn't tell my parents when I became Muslim. My mother figured it out on her own. You know how she figured it out? She called me for like 3 days straight saying, "Hey, you want to go to lunch?" And I said, "Nah." She's like, so the first day she was like, "Oh, okay." The second day she was like, "All right." My mother's a nurse. The third day she said, "Boy, you fasting?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay." Like she knew, work with Muslims. So she's like, "Yeah, I'm around people who are fasting and you ain't, you're not eating. And I raised, what I'm saying? Like, you my son. What are you talking about? You're not eating." So my mother did, I mean, she didn't bat an eye, like, "Oh, okay, oh, this is horrible." Even just yesterday, my mother called and said, "Okay, I know the kids don't celebrate Christmas, but I'm gonna send them something." All right. I mean, I could take this like hard line. No, don't send them any. My parents know my kids don't celebrate Christmas. But for them, it's a tradition of sending things. And my kids know we don't do this. But that's still your family. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still have rights. This is your grandmother. Like, what I'm gonna say, like, your grandmother, like, Christmas, like. So I mean, I would agree. I mean, this is your family.
Got it.
You only get one of those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How about this one? Sometimes reverts tend to lecture their parents, siblings, extended family about the history of the holiday in an attempt to prove how justified they are in avoiding it. You quote Jeremiah 10.
Sometimes, man. I mean, some of it, we're so passionate. Sometimes when you're new, you're like any newbie to anything. Anything you're new to, you're really passionate about it. And so sometimes that means you become, a victim of pietitis. You're so pious now. You know what I mean? And you become annoying. Like, instead of just living the tradition, you become the person who wants to always talk the tradition. And so they become like, you're rude. Like, yeah, okay, you might be right, but you're rude. So I can't hear you. That's true. Sometimes it's zeal. And a lot of times, to be fair, I mean, this sister's writing this. I was telling my wife the other day, for someone to convert now, man, it's so much of a better experience. When I became Muslim, you were just at the bookstores. You just were reading anything you get your hands on. There wasn't, I mean, you didn't have any internet. You know what I'm saying? There were no like, "Oh, let me go check this video," or "Let me check this website of how to handle this experience." So no, I would agree, but it's a better experience now.
Nice. I'm sorry, I got a couple of them here, and I'm honestly loving your I'm loving what she wrote, and I'm loving your reaction, to be honest. Number 3, she said, common mistakes reverts have made. Stop calling and speaking to the elders in the family altogether in order to avoid having to explain why they are not participating anymore.
Yep. Yeah, again, that comes from not having guides. Like, modeling is important. You need a model for not, and sometimes that can't be somebody who was raised in a predominantly Muslim country. You know, it has to be somebody who went through the same experience. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you did this, how you get along with your parents, you know, because what we're often afraid of is selling out the tradition. Yeah, I'm Muslim now. I don't want to do anything that counters, you know, goes against me being Muslim. So, yeah, I'll tell you something. When I got, one of the most shameful things I've ever done is when I got married, I didn't tell my parents.
Wow.
And the reason why was, it wasn't that my parents are terrible people. And I actually, you know, I mean, Allah forgive me. It's one of the worst things I've ever done. I didn't want anybody to tell me not to do it. That was it. I came from a neighborhood of people, you know, divorced. My parents got divorced. My friends' parents got divorced. And, you know, I become Muslim, and this is the right thing to do. So I felt like, well, this is the right thing to do. You know, I don't want to be, I don't need anybody discouraging me from doing it. So, and my father mentioned it years later, like, son, you know, I would have thrown you a, you know, had a, you know, party, would have had a wedding, you know, but, you know, I was afraid of, like, somebody telling me, like, don't do it. You know what I mean? And so sometimes that fear carries over into someone not wanting to call because I just don't want to have this discussion.
Wow.
You know, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to, you know, particularly if they're older. Like, I don't want to argue. Who wants to argue with their grandma? It's grandma, man. You really gonna be arguing with your grandma about Christmas? So sometimes, I mean, we avoid. It's an avoidance because you don't have a model for how to do that. How do I have this conversation?
Nice. And, you know, I guess, same way that you've shared your confession, I think on behalf of a lot of people out there, I think my confession would be the notion that sometimes we are so oblivious to the kind of challenges that people like yourself have to face, and, you know, things that you have to go through. And to us, you know, it stops with, okay, so Malik came to the masjid, takbir, you know, to give you a hug if you're not in a rush, and that's really the end of it. That is literally the end of it. Like, nobody would ever think of what happens to this man now that he has to go back to his family. It's like, can't have a conversation with my mom about my conversion or reversion. Can't really do this because she's my grandmother. I couldn't even tell my mama that, you know, I was getting married. That's like some serious challenges that a person, like, I can only imagine the monologue that is going through your head as far as, do I do this or do I not do this?
I mean, 70% of converts walk. I don't think they walk away from Tawheed. I don't think they walk away from La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. I think they walk away from the community. You know, that's just it's too difficult sometimes for people, you know, to maintain. They believe in Allah. They believe in that the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu is the messenger of Allah. But the lived reality for some people, and I'm African American, it's a lot easier because my parents have cultural references. You know, they can say, "Oh, you like Muhammad Ali? Oh, you like Malcolm X now? Okay, all right. So you're gonna be straight, right? Like, you like the guy up the street. Like, all right, he cleaned himself morally. He cleaned himself up morally. So okay, that's what you want now, right?" But I've known white converts, man. The struggle is real. Like that, you know, what they hear from their family members, man, it's tough. I mean, me and my wife have picked up women whose family members have told, okay, you're out. Are you gonna be Muslim? Okay, you out. whose stuff has been on the porch, man. Suitcase on the porch, you're out of here.
Wow. Really, really appreciating this. Okay, check this one out. Says, mistakes that are made by reverts. Return home to visit with family, but remain emotionless during all the festivities in an attempt to prove they are not in any way celebrating.
Yeah, man, I say true to the dean, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the thought process. I'm either gonna stay true to this tradition, or this is some nonsense, you know. Which is, you know, why people should look, if you're gonna feel like that, don't go for that celebration part. Go for the dinner, or just don't go that day. Go the next day, or go the day before. You know, if you feel like you can't handle, and this is part of knowing yourself and what's your relationship like with your family members. If you know, it's the idea like when people critique Mother's Day and Father's Day, oh, it should be, you know, Muslims always say it should be every day, but the reality is we don't treat it like every day. Right? Like, if you don't go and see your family members often, so that if you don't show up that one day, they're not like, oh, you know, so and so. I mean, if they come, if you're consistent, visibly consistent, and you support them in times of need, then they're not gonna be too bent out of shape. You don't come on, you know, Christmas. Because they're gonna say, man, I see him, I'm gonna see him tomorrow. You know what I mean? I'll see him next week. He just came by the other day. He just brought me some groceries the other day. You know. Yeah, if you're gonna go and be like Debbie Downer, then people gonna stop liking you. Like, man, go home. We don't want you over here anyway.
You know, I was when you were speaking about the struggles of our Caucasian brothers and sisters when they revert to Islam, somebody put it nicely, and I wanted to make that point, but I've lost the word that I was looking for, and that is cultural treason. You are guilty of treason, and I loved that. You know, that I felt that it was really, really. So what you're saying is that within the African American tradition, you're not necessarily guilty of treason because there is a reference point. There's a Muhammad Ali, there is a Malcolm X. There are these people that people can say, okay, so he is still within. That reference is absent, which just makes the challenge for our, you know, Caucasian brothers and sisters even a lot harder.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, one of our teachers called it cultural apostasy. Like you've apostated from being white.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so what do you become? And this is why I think communally we have to allow white converts to be white converts. We can't make them little Pakistanis or little Arabs or little Bengalis or even little African Americans. They have to create a culture of white converts so that future generations of white converts won't have to keep going through the same struggle of being a cultural apostate. And then they can give dawah to their people. Like, you know, every prophet, when it says, they say, oh, my people, white converts should be able to give dawah to other white people. Instead of Muslims who don't have the same shared experiences, going to talk to them thinking, because they're gonna be thinking like, oh, this is some nice little foreign, or this is gonna be a black thing. You know, black, hey, you know, white converts need to be able to talk to their people about being Muslim and being white, and not be forced to be anything else.
Interesting. So you speak about the idea of the lack of modeling and how it was much more difficult back then than it is right now. And I know that you mentor, you know, young brothers and sisters. And if a young person were to come to you, what would you tell them? And in turn, what can you teach us in the community that, you know, how do you handle these things? What is it that we would be doing to best serve our brothers and sisters? And I do have some questions for you that are coming through YouTube, so I'll read them off to you. But after you do that,
I would say the first thing communally is to support. I think the community is so vast and has so much talent in it that individual groups should create entities that take care of the needs of that particular group. So, for example, we've created an organization that handles converts, the social needs of converts. A convert should be able to walk into a masjid, any masjid, and learn Farda-Ain. Like, you should learn what you need to learn to be Muslim. Now, your socialization as a Muslim is totally different, because your social reality is different. Like, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. In Detroit, we do different things than they do than somebody from Bangladesh. We're both Muslim, but our social realities are different. What I do on my free time is different than what he does on his free time. The sports I like may be different than what he likes. That doesn't mean one of us is bad, one of us is less Muslim. That just means that Allah has made a peacock of humanity with beautiful colors. But we have to, have the realization that we're in America. So anybody should be able to walk into a masjid and learn Farda-Ain. You should learn, because if you die when you leave that masjid, or you die 2 days after, every masjid has to be able to teach people what do you need to believe and how to pray, how to make wudu. After that, leave people alone, in a sense. And then communally, we should support those organizations that those people are taking care of those needs. So we, like, convert needs should be taken care of by converts. Like 901. I mean, what Samir does with 901. That's young people taking care of somebody who's had the experience of growing up Muslim, taking care of the needs of other people who are growing up Muslim. It just makes sense. You're a subject matter expert. The same thing goes with people who come to Islam. Subject matter experts. You're a psychologist. You're a subject matter expert. Like, you know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
most of the time,
nobody can come in like, I think I know a little bit more than he does. No, you don't. It's just stay in your lane. And I think communally, we get out of our lane sometimes. If you don't have the experience of taking Shahada, of struggling to learn how to pray, of struggling to tell your mom, struggling to tell your dad, should I go to this Christmas dinner? Should I not go? Then, that's not your wheelhouse. That's not your place to try to teach somebody that. You know what I mean? And we should let the people who have that experience do that.
Interesting. Have a question here from Rebecca. She said, my mother said one of her biggest fears when I became Muslim was that I would stop going to Christmas.
Yeah. That's real. I mean, it's a family time. Like, in America, oftentimes I think people come to America and they think these holidays are like the holidays that they celebrate at home. You know what I mean? Like, they have deep religious conviction about these holidays. In America, we have deep social conviction about these holidays. Like, socially, I want to see my family on Christmas. You know what I mean? Do I believe in the manger scene and all? I never believed. Even when I was a kid, like, what is it? Like, I never. And I went to church, man. I was in the choir. Right? So I committed. I was to church. But it had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with Santa Claus, Jingle Bell Rock. It had nothing to do with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Except I love the Temptations version of the song. But that was about. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with family. So yeah, I could see it. Like, a mother would say, "Oh, you Muslim? So that means you're not coming. You're not coming over." You know what I mean? Like, and that. Okay, now what does this mean? Now, if you're not coming, what does this mean?
Interesting. Another sister agreeing with the point that you made about the cultural apostasy or the cultural treason. She said that is, Sister Melinda, she said that is the case, especially for sisters who dress in an Islamic way, wearing a headscarf.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's you put that hijab on. Again, and some of this is cultural. Black women been covering their heads since 1619, since the 20 enslaved Africans came. It's been always been a part. But for white converts, totally different program. It says something. There's a reason why there's Head and Shoulders commercials. You know what I mean? Like, reason, that's just part of the thing. So yeah, and so they need a community to help them through that. You shouldn't have. You can't be survival of the fittest. We're only going to get the strongest people who can stay in the deen. No, that's not realistic. So you need a community to help you with that. And people who have the same shared experience. And that's where I think the other thing when we're talking about converts have to step up to the plate on their responsibilities. Like, I've been Muslim 20 years. I'm not a new Muslim anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this means I have a responsibility to people who are new. And sometimes we look at converts as, what can we do for them? No. It's time for you to give back to the community. What can you bring to the community? It's kind of like young people as well. There's the idea that, the youth need this, youth need that. No. We need your young energy doing something for the community, for the sake of Allah. We're not gonna keep giving to you. The same thing with converts. When we give, but then I think people feel a part of a community that there's some interdependency. I can rely on the community and I can give back, I can give to the community. It can't just be this one-way street thing where, it's always, I'm always in need. I'm always no. We should meet the need, but then we should also say, okay, we need you to do something for the community as well. That's when I know I belong.
Nice. One of the things that I wanted to get your opinion on as we're coming to the end of this is the impact of COVID. It is going to be, I know we have experienced 2 Eids without, that were not celebrated communally. Ramadan is a big, huge deal for the Muslim communities. Like, this is the time that, you show up to the masjid 60 times a month. You're talking, you come to Fajr, you come to Isha for 30 days. That's like big deal. That was not there. Then Hajj was not there. Of course, the Eid was not there. And most likely, this coming Ramadan, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best. I don't want to be, doom and gloom, but it's not looking good. I don't think it's looking good for this coming Ramadan. So that's going to be a big deal. And I know that some people just like, their social and emotional support was absolutely devastated because of this. So now, in the absence or in the presence of COVID, you think that would just make it easier for people, or would that make it more difficult?
I think we all miss it. So, now we took it for granted. Like, you took it for granted. You were arguing with somebody over about, something like foot to foot. Hey, why aren't you standing foot to foot? Like, now you love to argue with a cat about being foot to foot. You know what I mean? So you love to argue with a guy. Now you stand about 6 to 8 feet away from a guy.
And you got no problem with it.
Hey, you wouldn't have any problem if you could do foot to foot now, right? So we all miss, and that's good. I think it's good to miss things. Man. It's good. It's good. It gives you a level of gratitude. Communally, I think in some senses we'll be better off after this. I know some say like that social isolation may have, and we probably will never know the full effects of it, and that's probably going to be 10, 15 years down the road. But I think because we miss community, even introverts, even extreme introverts, I've talked to them and they say, man, I kind of miss it, and so extroverts like you are you know, like you feel tired a lot because you're not getting energized by people, mashallah. No, I think we'll be better off in some senses, you know, when this is over, you know, inshallah, Allah removes this from us. I think we'll all, you know, will gravitate to the thing that was taken from us. Anything that's taken from you, you know, you appreciate it now. You know, we appreciate, you know, I think last year people may have had their best Ramadans. And then, I mean, imagine the amount of real serious conversations that we haven't had because we've been so busy, that we've had because we're at home by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, imagine the conversations you've had with your kids that you would not have had because, you know, they're in school, they're in sports, you know, that you've had. I mean, I'm, you know, there's some things that I've been able to talk to my own kids about. Oh, man, you know, like, wow, you're getting tall. Like, I didn't know you thought like that. You know what I mean? That you have with your spouse, that you have, I mean, even everybody realizes that, man, you need community. Everybody needs community. So everybody can understand how people who come to Islam feel now. Like, man, it's pretty lonely. Yeah, that's how some people feel all the time.
Got it. Few points, if we can go over them somewhat quickly, inshallah. Turning the holiday season into a lot of jurisprudence related arguments. Does that help converts? And I understand that, you know, some of these questions are legitimate questions, and they are, you know, they're concerned to people. But should they become a community priority?
Like, everybody knows, like, Christmas is fake. And everybody knows Santa Claus is a lie. You know what I mean? Everybody knows Jesus alayhi salam wasn't born on December 25th. That was the worship of the sun god Mithra for the Romans. Everybody knows this. It's a social event. I've been in the Muslim homes who have Christmas trees. I was shocked. I mean, when I converted and I walked through, the first time I went to a Muslim house, I saw a Christmas tree. What in the world? Like, and back then, I probably was a lot less tolerant, you know, because we're leaving this. Why are you running to it? So no, I think it's clear. I think it's okay to clearly state that this is a lie. It has nothing to do with our tradition. I mean, you don't have to argue over it. Like, you know, like it or not, so what? It's still the truth. Like, you know, I don't think it's worth arguing about when you could just clearly state. There was one child, a child who I saw who became an adult. I was watching an interview, and he said when his mother, he grew up and he realized like Santa Claus wasn't real. He said, "Man, what else isn't real that you've taught me? Is God real?" You know what I'm saying? Like, why would a Muslim even engage in that? We engage in it because socially there's a amount of social pressure that people can't withstand, the social pressure of being on the out. I don't think it has to do with law. Like, we all know it's like haram. Come on. Like, you know, I think it's the social pressure. And I think if we did things on communally on that day, just doing something like fun. Let's go bowling. Let's do something. Let's do something together so that people aren't by themselves trying to fight against the society. So no, arguing about, you know, the law, the legal thing of it. I mean, I think, come on, anybody, come on, you're trying too hard to fit, you know, to fit the religion into your social reality.
Nice. Finally, I'm going to read you a final quote from the book by Sister Megan. See your reaction to it. She suggests that people ought to ride with nostalgia and not to fight it. And the nostalgia here is regarding the holiday season. So she is saying the following. She said that you do not need to feel ashamed of your past or feel ashamed that you are moved by it. Your past will always be part of who you are. When you became a Muslim, all your previous sins were erased, but your lifetime of meaningful memories were not.
Was the Prophet Sallallahu a Qurayshi?
He was.
Did he stop being a Qurayshi?
He did not.
You know, I think that aspect, you know, and hopefully, I don't think we communally, I think we've, you know, matured a little bit. People are like being an American. I think Muslims are done with the like struggling on. I mean, well, the immigrant community is probably done with struggling on. Are you an American or not? Right? We've gotten past that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so people who convert, you're an American, you have American experiences. Only thing that changes is your theology and your ethics.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're from the South and you love eating barbecue, just stop eating pork barbecue. Times get you some beef barbecue. You know what I'm saying? Like, you like basketball, all right, that's fine. You know, you like football, whatever. You know, just make sure you praying at halftime or something. Like, you still who you are. So no, I would agree with her on that. You should. The Sahabas didn't stop being Arabs. None of them. None of them said, "Look, I'm done with being an Arab." You know, Salman al-Farsi, Salman al-Farsi, right? Like, they didn't stop being who they were. So you could say, like, man, with nostalgia, just don't. If it's wrong, I think that's the issue. If it's wrong, like, it's wrong. If it's wrong, then you say, man, alhamdulillah. I mean, Omar, I knew when they talk about how they, you know, how he used to behave. Like, man, you know, laughing and crying, talking about, you know, burning his child. Like, they looked back on their life like, man, some of the stuff we did was terrible.
Hmm.
But I'm sure, you know, during the Prophet ﷺ looked back on Salih was saying Muhammad, the treaty that was in Mecca at the time. What was
Hudaybiyah.
No. When they this
Oh,
was
Hilf al-Fudul. Hilf al-Fudul.
yes. And he said later, like, if this was to still happen, I would still do this.
Hmm.
Right? This is like this was an honorable thing. There are honorable things about being an American. There are honorable things. Like, some things in my child, I knew brotherhood from where I grew up. Like, my friends were my brothers.
Hmm.
They protected me. They supported me. You know, when I was in college, they sent me money. These are, you know, I learned brotherhood from where I lived. So when I became Muslim, sometimes when people would talk about brotherhood, I would say, nah, that's not brotherhood. I know brotherhood. You know, so no, it's okay to look back, man, holidays with nostalgia of your family, because to me, that's what Americans do, man. It's just a day off. Americans work too much. Like, we work too much, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's good to have fun times with your family members.
Love it. So she suggests that here's her suggestion for people who are going through this, and I think you also made the similar suggestions. She said that serving others eases loneliness.
Yep.
And she said, here are some things that people can do. She said, you can invite friends over for dinner where you cook all of your favorite foods and desserts.
Yeah.
Are there other converts who might be in the same boat as you? Are there Facebook groups or online forums you can spend time in, being a source of support and encouragement for others for the tough times they are currently facing? Could you start a weekly meetup at a local coffee shop for other converts or reverts who want to get together and share their experience? It's almost like what you said about, you know, the subject matter expert, you know, and I'm just absolutely very these are beautiful ideas. Brother Malik, man, this has been really great, man.
Alhamdulillah.
This is a beautiful conversation, and thank you for bringing in the insight. You know, just helping us to you know, to better understand the world that you came from, and also the world that our other brothers and sisters, you know, will be coming from, inshallah, so that we can relate better to them.
Alhamdulillah.
Remember, you know, we're not discussing the theological parts of it, but we're like, you know, the human part of, you know, the missing out on the social, emotional, and familial aspects of the of the um of the holidays.
Yeah, no, that's the main thing, man.
Yep.
Because they're still your family. they're still going to support you often, you know, and you need them. And they have rights. And sometimes, I mean, converts may forget, like those family members have rights over you. You Muslim now, they have rights. Your mother has rights. You know, your father has rights. Your siblings have a right. And one right to me that we often forget, man, they have a right to hear the message and see the message. Not just hear it, but see it, what it's done for your life, you know, how it's improved your life. So, alhamdulillah. No, I appreciate the invite, man. Alhamdulillah. It's always good seeing you anyway.
Listen, we plan to
MashaAllah.
do this again, inshallah. We want to hear
Inshallah.
about what it is that you are doing and the kind of work that you're doing in the Memphis area. And man, I am so honored to have had you. And inshallah, we will be doing this again. So, on behalf of
Alhamdulillah.
all the people who've been watching us this evening, we want to thank you and say Jazakallah khair. May Allah bless you, bless your family, Ya Rabbil Alameen. And to all of our viewers, thank you for joining us. We will be seeing you, inshallah, next week, same time, same place, where we have plenty of parking lot. You see behind me right here, inshallah. Nobody's going to be turned away. And until we see you next time, we say so long and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.